You think crying in the shower makes you deep, but it's just your brain's pathetic way of negotiating with reality. Listen to me. Right now, your internal GPS is broken, and your feelings are a blind pigeon driving the bus. You're sitting around waiting to feel ready, waiting for the universe to text you a smiley face. Newsflash, Buttercup, the universe left you on red. This audiobook is the official eviction notice for your self-pity. We are replacing your emotional support blanket with a concrete slab of discipline. Buckle up, because the truth doesn't care about your heartstrings. Chapter 1. The I Need to Feel Motivated Delusion. Let's talk about the biggest scam of the modern era. Worse than those email princes asking for your bank account details. Worse than snake oil diet pills. I am talking about the absolute, unadulterated garbage idea that you need to feel good before you get to work. You wake up, stare at the ceiling, and wait for the motivation fairy to flutter through your window and sprinkle magical get-it-done dust on your forehead. You sit there scrolling through your phone, telling yourself, I just don't have the energy right now. I'll do it when I feel a little more fired up. Spoiler alert, sunshine. She's not coming. The motivation fairy got stuck in traffic, or she's busy helping a guy who actually bothered to put his work boots on. You are sitting around waiting for a chemical reaction in your brain to give you the green light to live your own life. It is absolute madness. Think about motivation like that one flaky friend who promises to help you move out of your third-floor walk-up apartment. On Tuesday, he's all hype. He's slapping you on the back saying, yeah, bro, I got you. We're gonna crush it. We're a team. Come Saturday morning, when it's pouring rain and it's time to haul a 300-pound sleeper sofa down a narrow flight of stairs. Crickets. His phone goes straight to voicemail. He's nowhere to be found. That is motivation. It loves the idea of the work, it loves the glamorous montage in the movie, but it vanishes the exact second your muscles start burning or the spreadsheet gets boring. Listen to me and burn this into your brain. Motivation is a tourist. Discipline is a local. I'll say it again so the guys in the back can hear it. Motivation is a tourist. Discipline is a local. Tourists only show up when the weather is perfect, the drinks are cold, and the vibes are immaculate. But the locals? The locals are there when it's freezing rain, the power goes out, and the streets are flooded. You are currently relying on a sunburned tourist to build your empire. Stop it. You don't need motivation. You need a spine. You have a choice. Every single morning, you have a choice. You can wait for the stars to perfectly align, or you can build a bulldozer and pave your own freaking road. It's not about finding the perfect mood, it's about relentless, unbreakable discipline. Let me hit you with some basic biological reality, because your brain has you completely fooled right now. You think the formula is, feel good, then do the hard thing. Wrong. That is backwards. That is completely upside down. Action precedes emotion. That's the key. Let's look at a real-world example. Nobody, and I mean literally nobody in the history of human existence, feels like doing Bulgarian split squats on a rainy Tuesday morning. Your bed is warm, the floor is cold, your quads are already weeping at the thought of the pain. Your feelings are actively begging you to stay under the covers and watch people bake cakes on YouTube. But the guy who wins? He doesn't listen to that internal whining. He does the squats anyway. He drags his protesting carcass to the squat rack, he loads up the heavy iron, and he suffers. And guess what happens? 20 minutes later, his brain floods his system with a massive wave of endorphins. He feels like a conquering gladiator. He feels like he could roundhouse kick a grizzly bear. Your brain rewards you with the good feelings after the heavy lifting is done, not before. Stop demanding payment before you do the work. You are literally walking up to a dark, empty fireplace and saying, give me heat and then I will give you some wood. It is peak clown shoes behavior. The universe does not owe you a dopamine hit as a down payment for your effort. You have to chop the wood, carry the wood, spark the flint, and blow on the embers before you get to feel warm. You don't need your brain's permission to move your legs. Move your legs first, and your feelings will be forced to catch up. Action precedes emotion. That's the key. So how do we fix this fundamentally broken operating system in your head? We perform a clean, merciless divorce. You must separate your physical actions from your internal monologue of complaints. Right now, you are letting your emotions drive the bus. Your feelings are not the CEO of your life. They are the whiny interns in the mailroom. They don't have security clearance, and they certainly don't make the big executive decisions. You can be internally crying like a toddler who just dropped his double-scoop ice cream cone on the hot pavement. You can be whining, agonizing, and throwing a mental tantrum of epic proportions inside your skull. I do not care. The universe does not care. As long as your hands are still typing the report, you are winning. As long as your feet are still hitting the pavement, you are winning. As long as your mouth is making the sales call, you are winning. You don't need their permission. You don't need your feelings to agree with your actions. You are fully allowed to be a miserable, complaining wreck inside your own mind, just as long as your physical body executes the mission. It is time to evict the emotional squatters. These feelings of laziness, apathy, and "I'll do it tomorrow" have been living rent-free in your brain for way too long. They are eating your snacks, ruining your furniture, and actively destroying your property value. Evict the emotional squatters. Throw their metaphorical bags onto the curb. You do not negotiate with squatters. You do not ask them politely to leave. You change the locks, you turn off their water supply, and you take your property back by force. It's not about how you feel, it's about what you build. Stop consulting your emotional thermometer before you decide to be a man of your word. If you said you were going to do it, you do it. Period. No amendments, no addendums, no checking to see if your chakras are aligned. You have a choice right now. You can keep treating your temporary lack of motivation like a terminal illness, or you can wake up to the brutal reality that no one is coming to save you from your own excuses. Your feelings are lying to you. They are trying to keep you soft, safe, and entirely forgettable. Defy them. You've divorced your feelings and mastered the art of moving without motivation. But we aren't done yet, because there's a specific emotion you've been coddling like a wounded bird. Chapter 2. Stop treating your sadness like a pet. Let's get one thing brutally straight right out of the gate. You are not Batman brooding over the shadowy skyline of Gotham City. You are a grown man sitting in a 2012 Honda Civic in the parking lot of a grocery store. Yet for some utterly baffling reason, society has convinced you that there is romance in being miserable. We need to talk about the melancholy mascot syndrome. This is that ridiculous self-indulgent habit you have of adopting your bad moods like they are a rescue puppy. You wake up feeling a little gloomy, and instead of shaking it off, grabbing a coffee, and getting to work, you decide to swaddle that sadness in a warm blanket and bottle feed it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You walk over to the window. It's raining outside. Perfect. You stare at 2 raindrops racing down the glass. You pull out your phone, open your music app, and put on a playlist titled something pathetic like Midnight Regrets or Echoes of My Soul. You actively turn your own life into a moody, black and white music video, and you cast yourself as the tragic, misunderstood extra. Why do you do this? Why do you cultivate your own misery? Because it is incredibly safe. Sadness, when you nurse it like this, demands absolutely zero effort. It doesn't ask you to lift heavy weights. It doesn't ask you to start a business. It doesn't require you to be a reliable partner or a strong leader. It just gives you a free pass to sit on the couch, eat heavily processed carbohydrates, and be a professional victim. You are actively choosing to marinate in your own misery because it feels like a warm bath. Listen to me, and listen closely. Your sadness is not a pet. Stop feeding it treats. Every time you cue up that depressing song, every time you dramatically sigh in an empty room, hoping the walls will ask you what's wrong, you are handing out Scooby snacks to your own weakness. Your sadness is not a pet. Stop feeding it treats. If a stray dog wandered into your kitchen and started chewing on your expensive sneakers, you wouldn't pet it and offer it a bowl of milk. You would shoo it out the back door. But when a stray negative emotion wanders into your brain and starts chewing up your ambition, you give it a permanent bed in the corner of your mind. You have a choice. You can either be the master of your mental real estate, or you can run a petting zoo for your own insecurities. This brings us to the badge of honor fallacy. Somewhere along the line, pop culture brainwashed you into believing that being constantly miserable makes you an intellectual. You think your dark moods make you deep. You think your inability to smile at a joke makes you complex. Let me hit you with a massive, uncomfortable dose of reality. Being miserable doesn't make you intellectually superior. It just makes you incredibly exhausting to be around. You are draining the life force out of every room you enter. People don't look at you and think, wow, he has such a profound, tortured soul. They look at you and think, great, here comes the human rain cloud. Hide the good snacks. It's not about being a misunderstood genius. It's about a total lack of emotional regulation. Let's look at a real-world example of how pathetic this gets. You wake up on a Tuesday. For no particular biological or logical reason, you are in a funk. You just feel a little off. Instead of doing the rational thing, drinking a tall glass of water, taking a brisk walk, and getting over yourself, you let this completely imaginary funk hijack your entire 24 hours. You snap at your coworkers, you send a passive-aggressive email, you skip the gym, you order $30 worth of greasy takeout food. You literally torch a completely good day of your one precious, finite life because you woke up on the wrong side of the mattress. Are you kidding me? You don't need their permission. You don't need your feelings to sign a permission slip for you to have a productive day. Your brain is feeding you a lie, telling you that your bad mood is a heavy chain. It's not a chain, it's a cobweb. Walk straight through it. You have a choice. When the funk hits, you acknowledge it, you ignore its demands, and you execute your daily mission anyway. That's the key. Now, I am not a monster. I understand that actual disappointment happens. You get passed over for a promotion, you go through a nasty breakup, or life hands you a genuinely raw deal. I am not telling you to become a lifeless robot who never feels pain, but I am putting strict regulations on your mourning period. Welcome to the 10-minute pity window. This is your new real-world behavioral protocol. When something genuinely irritating or disheartening happens, you are allowed exactly 10 minutes to throw a mental tantrum. Set a literal timer on your phone, 600 seconds. During those 10 minutes, you can kick the metaphorical tires. You can complain to the ceiling. You can punch a pillow. You can cry, pout, stomp your feet, and loudly list all the reasons why the universe is incredibly unfair to you. Let it rip. Get it entirely out of your system. But the very second that timer dings, the pity party is officially rated by the emotional police. The music is cut, the lights are turned on, and the guests are sent home. The second that alarm goes off, you wash your face, you roll your shoulders back, and it is right back to the grindstone. You do not get to bleed all over the rest of your week. You do not get to ruin tomorrow because you got a paper cut today. You give the emotion its 10 minutes of fame, and then you brutally evict it from the premises. Your sadness is not a pet. Stop feeding it treats. When the timer goes off, the morning is over. You pivot immediately to solutions. What went wrong? How do I fix it? What is the next physical action I must take to move forward? You execute those actions with cold, calculated precision. You don't ask your sadness for its opinion because it has been permanently fired from the advisory board. It's not about how deep your sorrow is, it's about how fast your recovery is. That's the key. You have learned to stop adopting your misery. You have shut down the petting zoo of your own sadness. You've stopped the dramatic music videos in your head. But right now, there is a tiny, glowing piece of glass and plastic in your pocket that is actively hijacking your brain's reward system and turning you into a digital zombie. You mastered the misery. Now let's talk about the adult pacifier ruining your life. Chapter 3. The dopamine pacifier in your pocket. Look at you, a fully grown man. You have the biological capacity to build a house, lead a team, and forge a legacy. Yet you carry a glowing rectangular pacifier in your pocket everywhere you go. Whenever life gets a little too real, a little too quiet, or a little too uncomfortable, what do? You instinctively reach into your pocket, pull out that sheet of glass, and stick that digital pacifier right into your brain to soothe your delicate nerves. Welcome to digital adult daycare. You cannot handle 5 consecutive seconds of unoccupied time. It is a biological embarrassment. If you are standing in line at the grocery store, waiting for an elevator, or sitting on the porcelain throne, you instantly whip out your phone. Why? Because you are terrified of your own unedited thoughts. Every time you feel a negative emotion, whether it is a spike of anxiety, a wave of self-doubt, or just a microscopic drop of boredom, you scramble to numb the pain. You sedate your ambitions with videos of dancing cats, guys building underground swimming pools out of mud, and fake-tanned fitness influencers who are lying through their chemically whitened teeth about their supplement routines. You are swiping away your potential, one meaningless 15-second clip at a time. You are hunched over like a gargoyle, drooling over pixels, while the real world passes you by. Burn this phrase into your prefrontal cortex. Scrolling is just digging a grave with your thumb. I'll say it again because I know your attention span is currently shorter than a goldfish's memory. Scrolling is just digging a grave with your thumb. Every time you flick your finger up that screen, you are burying a minute of your life that you are never, ever getting back. You are digging a 6-foot hole for your dreams, your focus, and your masculinity. You have a choice. You can be the architect of your reality, or you can be a mindless consumer of algorithmic garbage. That's the key. This brings us to the most tragic part of your daily routine. We need to talk about the cheap pleasure tax. Let's look at a real-world example of how you are actively sabotaging your own life. The sun comes up, your eyes flutter open. Before your feet have even touched the bedroom floor, your brain registers a tiny, entirely normal hint of anxiety about the workday ahead. A strong, capable human would take a deep breath, stretch, stand up, and prepare for battle. What do? You panic. You grab the phone off your nightstand like it is an oxygen mask on a crashing airplane. You instantly open social media. Boom. You blast your retinas with artificial light and fry your baseline dopamine receptors before you have even brushed your teeth. You flood your system with cheap, unearned pleasure just to hide from the mild discomfort of waking up. You are paying the cheap pleasure tax, and the interest rate is your future. You are trading your empire for momentary digital giggles. Do you understand how backwards this is? You are handing over the freshest, most prime cognitive hours of your day to billionaires in Silicon Valley who engineer these apps to keep you docile. It's not about staying connected. It's about avoiding reality. It's not about being informed. It's about being entirely anesthetized to your own mediocrity. You are actively choosing a virtual simulation of life because the real one requires you to actually lift heavy things and have difficult conversations. It is time to execute a jailbreak. We are reclaiming the void. What is the void? The void is the uncomfortable, agonizing silence that happens when you turn off the screens. The void is the empty space in your day where your brain is actually forced to process a thought without a laugh track or a flashing neon sign. You have been running away from boredom like it is a tax auditor coming to collect. But listen to me carefully. Boredom is the breeding ground for brilliance. If you never allow yourself to sit in an empty room and be profoundly, uncomfortably bored, you will never have an original idea. You will never deeply reflect on your mistakes. You will never strategize a 10-year plan. You are actively running away from your own potential because you are scared of the quiet. Here is your real-world behavioral instruction. Starting today, we are implementing strict quarantine zones for your digital pacifier. First, the bathroom is now a phone-free zone. If you cannot handle your own bodily functions without watching a teenager do a viral dance, you need serious psychological help. Leave the phone on the desk, sit there, stare at the wall, let your brain breathe. Second, the bedroom is for sleeping, not for scrolling. Buy a $10 alarm clock, plug your phone into a charger in the kitchen, and walk away. When you wake up, you will be forced to face the day on your own 2 feet, armed with nothing but your own mind. You don't need their permission. You don't need the algorithm's permission to start your morning. You don't need a notification to validate your existence. You will experience withdrawal. Your hand will ghost reach into your pocket. You will feel a phantom buzz against your leg. You will sit in your car before work, the engine turned off, and your brain will scream at you to just check the feed one more time. Let it scream. Let the toddlers in your brain throw their little tantrum. You sit in that silence and you soak in the void. Let the discomfort wash over you until it morphs into clarity. It's not about the smartphone, it's about the discipline of focus. You must learn to hoard your attention like it is gold bullion, because in the modern world, attention is the only currency that actually matters. Every time you deny the urge to scroll, you are doing a mental push-up. You are rebuilding the gray matter that the apps chewed up. You are taking the pacifier out of your mouth, standing up straight, and joining the ranks of the adults. You have a choice. You can keep paying the cheap pleasure tax and wonder why you are 30 years old with nothing to show for it but a high score on a mobile game. Or you can reclaim your attention span and start building something undeniable. Scrolling is just digging a grave with your thumb. Drop the shovel. You conquered the digital pacifier. You learned how to sit in the silence and reclaim your focus. But what happens when that silence gets broken by someone crossing your boundaries? Your default reaction is a sloppy, emotional explosion. You mastered your attention. Now let's talk about the absolute clown show of your temper. Chapter 4. Anger is a hammer. Stop hitting your own thumbs. Chapter 4. Anger is a hammer. Stop hitting your own thumbs. Let's get something straight about this mythical alpha male nonsense that's been aggressively pumped into your social media feed. Somewhere along the line, a bunch of insecure guys decided that losing your temper, shouting at customer service workers, and punching inanimate objects makes you a formidable force of nature. Wrong. It makes you a toddler who missed his afternoon nap. We need to have a serious conversation about what I call tantrums with beards. You think your uncontrolled anger is intimidating. You think a vein popping out of your forehead shows passion. Let me give you the brutal reality. When you lose your mind because some guy cut you off in traffic, you do not look like a silverback gorilla defending his territory. You look like an absolute, uncontrolled liability. Punching a hole in the drywall because your favorite sports team fumbled a piece of synthetic leather? Screaming at your television set like the referee can actually hear your brilliant tactical advice? That is peak clown shoes behavior. You are letting a game played by millionaires who don't know you exist dictate the emotional climate of your own home. Burn this phrase into your prefrontal cortex. Anger without action is just a tantrum with a beard. I'll say it again, louder, for the guys currently nursing bruised knuckles and spackling their living room walls. Anger without action is just a tantrum with a beard. If your rage does not result in a productive physical outcome that improves your life, you are just a giant infant crying for a bottle. You have a choice. Every time the heat rises in your chest, you have a choice. You can act like a rabid squirrel in a coffee shop, or you can be a man who controls his own thermostat. Anger inherently is not a bad emotion. In fact, anger is a magnificent tool. Anger is a hammer. It is designed to build houses, forge steel, and shatter obstacles. But right now, you are picking up that hammer, closing your eyes, and aggressively hitting your own thumbs. You are using your anger to destroy your relationships, spike your blood pressure, and ruin your professional reputation. We are going to stop burning your house down. We are going to start forging the furnace. Anger is exceptional fuel, but it only works if you put it into an engine. If you just dump a gallon of high-octane gasoline onto your living room rug and drop a match, you don't get a vehicle that drives you forward. You just get a pile of expensive, smoldering ash. Let's look at a real-world example. Let's say you get passed over for a promotion at work. You put in the hours, you did the time, and management gives the corner office to Chad, the guy who spends half his day practicing his golf swing by the copy machine. You are furious. The heat is rising. The loser, the guy throwing a tantrum with a beard, takes that anger to the water cooler. He aggressively complains to his co-workers. He gossips. He whines about how unfair the universe is. He sends angry, passive-aggressive emails. He burns up all that high-octane fuel just flapping his gums. And what does he accomplish? Absolutely nothing. He just labels himself as a bitter, toxic employee. The winner? The winner takes that same exact rage, seals his lips shut, and shovels that coal directly into the furnace. He uses the rage of getting passed over to study twice as hard. He uses that anger to arrive an hour earlier, to optimize his skills, and to build a resume so utterly bulletproof that he eventually leaves that company in the dust and steals half their clients. He takes his anger to the gym and absolutely destroys the squat rack. He doesn't complain, he builds. It's not about throwing a dramatic fit, it's about tactical execution. That's the key. When you feel disrespected, you don't need their permission to prove them wrong. You don't need an apology from Chad or your boss. You don't need validation from the universe. You just need to shut your mouth and let your actions do the screaming. This is what we call cold-blooded execution. I am going to train you right now on how to behave when you are provoked. When someone crosses your boundaries, insults your intelligence, or cuts you off at the knees, the natural human response is to explode. Everybody expects the explosion. They are waiting for you to raise your voice, turn red, and look foolish. I want you to deny them that satisfaction entirely. When you are provoked, I want the thermostat in your brain to drop to absolute zero. Go completely cold. Breathe through your nose, keep your voice completely steady, low, and terrifyingly calm. When everybody expects you to lose your mind, you respond with calculated silence. Do you have any idea how intimidating it is to deal with a man who cannot be emotionally manipulated? When someone tries to make you angry and you just stare at them with the calm, blinking indifference of a great white shark, it scares the living daylights out of them. You take all that heat, you swallow it down, and you turn it into massive action. The next time traffic is completely gridlocked, I want you to look at the sea of red brake lights. Instead of honking your horn like a maniac, you smile. You turn on an educational podcast. You sit in your seat, relaxed, recognizing that you cannot control the asphalt, but you entirely control the interior of your own mind. The next time a client is completely unreasonable, you don't send a fiery, insulting email that you'll regret in 20 minutes. You go cold. You draft a legally airtight, politely devastating response that protects your interests and leaves them with absolutely zero ammunition against you. Anger without action is just a tantrum with a beard. Drop the pacifier. Pick up the hammer, stop hitting your own thumbs, and start driving the nails into the floorboards of your empire. You have a choice. You can be a victim of your own exploding temper, leaving a trail of broken drywall and burnt bridges in your wake. Or you can be the cold-blooded architect of your own victory. It's not about how loud you can yell, it's about how heavily you can strike when the time is right. That's the key. You mastered your temper. You stopped burning your house down and started fueling the engine. You are a cold-blooded executor of reality. But what happens when the enemy isn't standing right in front of you? What happens when the enemy is a ghost, living rent-free in your own future, completely fabricated by your own mind? You forged the furnace. Now let's talk about the absolute garbage fiction you keep telling yourself. Chapter 5. Anxiety is just your imagination, writing bad fiction. Let's talk about your brain's absolute favorite hobby, creating massive apocalyptic dumpster fires out of thin air. As a human being, you possess the most powerful supercomputer in the known universe, resting right between your ears. You have an imagination capable of engineering suspension bridges, composing symphonies, and putting a rover on the surface of Mars. So, what do you do with this magnificent biological gift? You use it to write terrible, low-budget disaster movies about your own life. Welcome to the sci-fi director in your skull. Right now, you are letting an amateur, panic-stricken film director run around in your mind with a megaphone screaming action on the worst possible scenarios. You lay awake at 2 in the morning, sweating through your bedsheets, agonizing over a conversation with your boss that literally hasn't happened yet. You are pre-living a rejection from a woman you haven't even asked out. You are fighting phantoms. You are shadowboxing with ghosts. You are entirely stressed out over a fictional timeline that only exists inside your own head. You are taking out a mortgage on your peace of mind to pay for a catastrophe that hasn't even occurred. Burn this phrase into your prefrontal cortex right now. Stop paying interest on a debt you don't even owe. I want you to repeat that out loud the next time your chest gets tight. Stop paying interest on a debt you don't even owe. Why are you handing over your actual present-day energy to a future that is completely unwritten? It is absolute, unadulterated nonsense. You have a choice. You can let the sci-fi director keep churning out these garbage horror movies, or you can walk into the editing room of your own mind and pull the plug. Anxiety is not a psychic premonition. Anxiety is just your imagination writing bad fiction. This brings us to the ultimate weapon against your overactive imagination. It is time to implement the "so what" protocol. Your anxiety thrives in the dark. It loves vague, terrifying, shadowy concepts like failure or embarrassment. The only way to destroy it is to drag it out into the harsh, unforgiving sunlight of reality. Let's look at a real-world example. You have a massive presentation at work tomorrow. Your sci-fi director is currently whispering in your ear, telling you that you are going to forget your notes, your voice will crack, everyone will laugh at you, you will instantly get fired, your car will break down, and you will end up living in a cardboard box under the overpass eating cold beans out of a can. Let's hit the brakes and apply the "so what" protocol. You fail the presentation. So what? Well, you'll look like an absolute muppet in front of your co-workers. So what? Well, it'll be awkward in the break room for a few days. So what? Well, eventually Thursday rolls around, everybody forgets about it because they are entirely obsessed with their own problems and life goes on. Do you see what just happened? When you force yourself to walk through the absolute worst-case scenario, you realize that the monster under your bed is just a pile of dirty laundry. You fail, you look foolish for exactly 5 minutes, you survive, and you learn. Exposing the worst-case scenario completely ruins anxiety's power over you. You don't need their permission to fail, and you certainly don't need their permission to recover. If you stutter during the meeting, who cares? You breathe, you find your place, and you keep talking. You are a grown man, not a fragile piece of fine china. You are built to take a hit. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about surviving it with a pulse and a notepad. That's the key. But your brain is stubborn. Even when you expose the monster, your anxiety still wants to float away into the stratosphere of what-ifs. You start worrying about your retirement fund when you are 24 years old. You start agonizing over where you will live in 10 years when you haven't even made your bed today. You are suffering from the helium balloon effect. Your anxiety is a giant, floating balloon dragging your attention completely out of the present moment and up into the cloudy, invisible future. We need to start grounding the helium balloon. Anxiety floats away into the future. Discipline anchors you to the next 60 seconds. You do not have to figure out the next 10 years of your life today. That is a biological impossibility. Your brain is not equipped to process a decade of variables. All you have to do is execute the next immediately useful physical action. You feel the panic rising about your career trajectory? Grab the helium balloon, pull it down to earth, and look at your feet. What is directly in front of you? A pile of laundry? Fold it. An unanswered email? Send it. A dirty kitchen? Scrub it. You replace the chaotic, swirling thoughts of a fictional future with the cold, hard, undeniable reality of physical labor. You must adopt a new mantra to shut down the sci-fi director: logic over lullabies. I'll say it again: logic over lullabies. Your anxiety is singing you a twisted, scary lullaby to keep you paralyzed in bed. You defeat it by throwing a bucket of freezing cold logic right in its face. Logic says the email takes 2 minutes to type. Logic says the gym is only 4 miles away. Logic says that 99% of the things you worry about will literally never happen. You have a choice. Every single day, you have a choice. You can live in the terrifying fictional movie theater of your own anxiety, or you can step outside into the real world, plant your feet on the concrete, and get to work. It's not about predicting the future, it's about dominating the present. That's the key. You mastered your imagination. You fired the sci-fi director, implemented the so what protocol, and firmly grounded your attention in the next 60 seconds. You stopped waiting for a magical rescue from a fictional catastrophe. But let me hit you with an even harder truth. You aren't just waiting for a catastrophe, you are secretly waiting for a hero. You stopped fighting ghosts. Now let's talk about the absolute delusion that someone else is going to fix your life. Chapter 6. Nobody is coming to save you, and that's fantastic. Deep down in the squishy, completely delusional center of your brain, you are harboring a massive secret. You won't admit it to your friends, you won't admit it to your family, and you barely want to admit it to yourself. But I am going to rip the Band-Aid off right now. You are secretly waiting to be rescued. You actually believe your life is a Hollywood movie. You think you are currently in the gritty second act, right before the magical cinematic turning point. You are sitting on your sagging couch, eating stale tortilla chips, genuinely expecting a billionaire mentor with perfect teeth and a private jet to knock on your door, recognize your hidden potential, and hand you the keys to the kingdom. Or maybe you think a flawless, angelic woman is going to walk into your life and magically fix all your deep-seated insecurities. Or perhaps you are just waiting for a random, unearned lucky break from the universe to pull you out of your daily mediocrity. Wake up, Sleeping Beauty. We need to discuss a brutal, undeniable law of reality. The cavalry is on vacation. They are not coming. They do not have your coordinates. The helicopter is not inbound. No one is coming to save you because every single other person on this planet is far too busy trying to save themselves. The mentor you are waiting for is currently stressing over his own taxes. The dream girl you think will fix you is busy looking for a man who is already built, not a fixer-upper project. The universe is not a giant vending machine where you put in wishing really hard and get out $1 million. Burn this phrase into the front of your mind and repeat it every time you feel helpless. The cavalry isn't coming, so saddle your own darn horse. I'll say it again so it penetrates that thick skull of yours. The cavalry isn't coming, so saddle your own darn horse. Stop looking out the window waiting for a hero and start looking in the mirror to become one. You have a choice. You can sit in the dirt and wait to be discovered, or you can stand up, dust off your jeans, and build yourself. It's not about waiting to be discovered, it's about having the discipline to become undeniable. That's the key. This leads us to the absolute core of masculine power. Welcome to extreme ownership. I can already hear the excuses bubbling up in your throat. But it's not my fault. You don't know my story. I have terrible genetics. I grew up in a dead-end hometown. My boss is an absolute tyrant who actively sabotages my career. Let me stop you right there. You are 100% right. It is not your fault. The universe deals some people an absolutely garbage hand of cards. Bad genetics are not your fault. A terrible childhood is not your fault. The economy crashing is not your fault. But listen to me very carefully. While none of those things are your fault, navigating them is 100% your responsibility. Let's look at a real-world example. Let's say you walk outside and it is pouring down freezing, miserable rain. Is the rain your fault? Did you do a rain dance? Did you control the weather patterns over the Pacific Ocean? No. But if you stand in the middle of the street, getting soaked to the bone, screaming at the clouds about how unfair the meteorology is, you look like an absolute clown. Blaming the weather is like yelling at the rain instead of buying an umbrella. Your boss is a micromanaging jerk, not your fault. But it is absolutely your responsibility to study after hours, build a bulletproof resume, and find a better job. You don't need their permission. You don't need your boss's permission to outgrow him. You don't need the economy's permission to start a side hustle. Stop demanding that the world be fair. The world is a jungle, and you are currently complaining that the lions don't have good manners. When you complain, you are handing your power over to the very things you hate. But when you take ownership, you take the steering wheel back. This brings us to the greatest psychological shift you will ever make in your entire life. The freedom of total blame. Most guys run from blame like it is a contagious disease. They point fingers at their parents, their ex-girlfriends, the government, and the algorithm. They think avoiding blame keeps them safe. They think it makes them innocent. It doesn't make you innocent, it makes you a passenger. If your terrible life is society's fault, then society has to change before your life can improve. Do you know how long society takes to change? Lifetimes. But if you look at your pathetic bank account, your expanding waistline, and your messy bedroom, and you say, "This is entirely my fault," something magical happens. The moment you realize everything is your fault, you instantly realize everything is within your control. This isn't a burden. This is the ultimate superpower to rewrite your entire existence. If you broke it, you can fix it. If you steered the ship into the rocks, you are the captain, which means you have the authority to steer it back out into open water. Total blame is total freedom. I want you to implement a behavioral instruction right now. The next time you fail at something, you miss a deadline, you lose a client, you bomb a date, I want you to look in the mirror and say out loud, "I failed, and it is my fault." Now, how do I fix it? Watch what happens to your brain. The anxiety vanishes. The helpless victim mentality evaporates. You immediately shift from a whining child into a problem-solving machine. It's not about whose fault the past is, it's about the discipline to control your future. That's the key. You have a choice. Every single day, you have a choice. You can keep hoping the universe will accidentally drop a golden ticket in your lap, or you can pick up a sledgehammer and mine your own gold. The cavalry isn't coming, so saddle your own darn horse. You stopped waiting for a rescue. You embrace the absolute freedom of total blame, and you realize that you are the captain of this ship. But let's be honest, Captain. The waters you are sailing in right now are far too shallow, and your ship is anchored to a very comfortable, very pathetic dock. You took the steering wheel. Now, let's talk about the plush, velvet-lined cage you've built for yourself. Chapter 7. Your comfort zone is a beautifully decorated prison. Take a good, hard look around your bedroom. What do you see? I'll tell you what I see. I see a shrine dedicated to the absolute avoidance of effort. You have engineered a life where you never have to be too hot, too cold, too hungry, or too challenged. You have surrounded yourself with plush pillows, ergonomic gaming chairs, and temperature-controlled air conditioning. You have successfully turned your living space into a beautifully decorated prison, and you are the warden, the guard, and the completely docile inmate. Welcome to the sofa potato syndrome. Modern society has completely brainwashed you into believing that comfort is the ultimate goal of human existence. You genuinely think that kicking your feet up on a Friday night, swaddled in a fleece blanket like a giant bearded infant, eating heavily salted takeout food, and binge-watching a television show about people actually doing interesting things is the peak of living. Let me drop a massive slab of brutal reality on your soft, pampered head. Surviving is not the same thing as living. Comfort is a slow-acting poison. It is venom disguised as a vacation. Your ancestors crossed frozen tundras, fought off apex predators with sharpened sticks, and built civilizations from the dirt. You get a mild panic attack when the Wi-Fi drops down to 2 bars, and you refuse to eat a slice of pizza if it doesn't have the exact right ratio of garlic dipping sauce. You have built a cozy little fortress of zero expectations, and you are rotting from the inside out. Burn this phrase into your prefrontal cortex and repeat it every time your alarm goes off in the dark. A warm bed is the graveyard of greatness. I want you to hear that echoing in your skull tomorrow morning when your hand reaches for the snooze button. A warm bed is the graveyard of greatness. Every time you choose the sheets over the squat rack, every time you choose the couch over the keyboard, you are burying another piece of your potential. You are voluntarily digging a hole and throwing your future inside because the mattress feels nice. It is a biological embarrassment. You have a choice. You can be a domesticated house cat, perfectly content with your bowl of dry kibble, or you can be a creature that actually hunts. It's not about finding a softer pillow, it's about forging the discipline to sleep on the floor if you have to. That's the key. Because modern life has removed all the natural friction from your day, you must become the architect of your own suffering. We call this chasing the uncomfortable. If you do not actively inject friction into your life, you will go soft. Your mind will turn to absolute mush. Your body will become a marshmallow. You have to manufacture adversity just to remind your own nervous system who the boss actually is. Let's look at a real-world example. Tomorrow morning, when you step into the shower, you are not going to turn that dial to tropical rainforest. You are going to grab that handle and crank it all the way to freezing, ice-cold penguin habitat water. And you are going to stand underneath it. Your brain will scream, your lungs will gasp, your inner sci-fi director will instantly start writing a script about how you are going to catch hypothermia and perish right there on the bathroom tiles. Shut it down, stand there and take it. Look your panicked nervous system dead in the eye and say, I am in charge. We leave when I say we leave. Go sign up for a brutal martial arts class. Walk onto the mats and let another grown man fold you into a human pretzel. Sweat, bleed a little, tap out, get humbled. Prove to your pampered, over-coddled brain that you can take a physical and mental beating and still wake up the next day to fight again. You don't need their permission to suffer. You don't need society's approval to be tough. Society wants you soft, docile, and completely dependent on their convenience apps. You defy them by becoming unbreakable. Chasing the uncomfortable is the only way to build a callus over your mind. If you refuse to do this, if you insist on staying inside your plush little terrarium, you will become a victim of a terrifying psychological reality. This is the law of shrinking walls. You think your comfort zone is a static room. You think it just stays the same size, keeping you safe and warm. You are dead wrong. The comfort zone is a trash compactor. If you do not actively put your hands on the walls and push them outward every single day, those walls slowly, silently close in on you. Watch how this happens to the average undisciplined guy. First, he stops going to the gym because it's too intimidating. The walls shrink. Then, he stops going out on weekends because dealing with crowds is too exhausting. The walls shrink again. Then he stops calling his friends because having a real conversation is too much pressure. Before he knows it, he is 28 years old, locked in his bedroom, and the simple act of driving to the grocery store to buy a carton of milk triggers a massive, hyperventilating panic attack. His comfort zone has shrunk to the exact dimensions of his mattress. You conquer anxiety by constantly expanding the territory of your courage. Every time you do something that terrifies you, you push the walls back. Every time you speak up in a meeting, take a cold shower, or lift a heavier weight, you are claiming new mental real estate. You are expanding your empire. But the moment you sit down and say, I'm good right here, the walls start creeping back in. A warm bed is the graveyard of greatness. Get out of it. You have a choice. Every single day, you have a choice. You can retreat into the beautifully decorated prison of your own laziness, or you can break the locks, step out into the freezing cold reality of the world, and conquer the day. It's not about avoiding the storm, it's about having the discipline to become the storm. That's the key. You mastered your comfort, you smashed the thermostat, broke out of your plush prison, and pushed the walls of your courage back out to the horizon. But there is a squatter still hiding in the basement of your mind, whining about how unfair the weather is. You broke the cage. Now let's talk about the absolute loser asking for sympathy. Chapter 8. Evicting the Victim. Why me is a loser's question. Let's talk about your absolute favorite song. I'm not talking about the one you play at the gym. I am talking about the pathetic, screeching violin solo you play inside your own head every single time life gets a little bit difficult. It is the anthem of the defeated. It is the theme song of the absolute loser. The song is called Why Me. You have a master's degree in being a professional martyr. You walk around carrying your personal sob story like it is a designer handbag, showing it off to anyone who will make eye contact. You love telling people about how hard your childhood was, how your ex-girlfriend shattered your fragile heart, or how your old boss didn't appreciate your creative vision. Do you know why you love telling that story so much? Because it acts as a magical permission slip to be a completely average human being. You are using your past trauma as an impenetrable shield against future effort. You think that because you got dealt a bad hand 5, 10, or 15 years ago, you are officially exempt from having to do the heavy lifting today. You use your emotional scars as an excuse to sit on the sofa, play video games, and avoid the terrifying arena of actual competition. Listen to me, and listen to me closely. Burn this phrase into your prefrontal cortex. Your trauma is not a permission slip to be a bum. I want you to hear that echoing in the cavern of your skull every time you try to justify your own laziness. Your trauma is not a permission slip to be a bum. Every single person walking the face of this earth has a sob story. Everyone has been betrayed. Everyone has been bruised, battered, and unfairly treated by the universe at some point. The difference between the victor and the victim is what they do with the rubble. You have a choice. Every single morning, you have a choice. You can build a monument to your own misery, or you can use those broken bricks to pave a road to your empire. It's not about what was taken from you, it's about the discipline to build with whatever you have left. That's the key. We need to start flipping the script on how you view adversity. Right now, your default reaction to hardship is to crumble into a puddle of self-pity. Let's look at a real-world example. It is a Tuesday evening. You are driving home from your thoroughly mediocre job. Suddenly, your car makes a horrific grinding noise. The engine sputters and smoke starts pouring out from under the hood. You pull over to the side of the highway. What does the professional martyr do? He slams his hands on the steering wheel. He looks up at the roof of the car and screams, "Why is the universe doing this to me? I have such terrible luck. Why does everything bad always happen to me? Let me drop some brutal reality on you, sunshine. The universe did not single you out. The cosmos did not hold a secret meeting to sabotage your commute. Your car broke down because it is a machine with 200,000 miles on it, and you haven't checked the oil since the Obama administration." Instead of asking, "Why me?" a grown man steps out of the car, looks at the smoking engine, and asks a completely different set of questions. What is this teaching me about mechanical preparation? What is this teaching me about my completely non-existent emergency cash flow? He doesn't cry about his luck. He realizes that his bank account is too fragile to handle a broken water pump, and he makes a blood oath to start a side hustle that very night so he never feels this helpless again. You must rip the words "why me" out of your vocabulary entirely. Replace them with 2 words. Try me. When the bill comes in the mail, try me. When the project completely collapses, try me. When life tries to back you into a corner and expects you to fold like a cheap lawn chair, you square your shoulders, look the obstacle dead in the eye, and say, "Try me." You don't need their permission to be resilient. You don't need the universe to apologize to you before you start moving forward. The universe doesn't even know your name. It is time to execute a massive psychological cleanout. We are officially revoking the squatter's rights inside your head. You have been harboring emotional squatters in the basement of your brain for years. You are holding on to resentment against a high school coach who benched you 12 years ago. You are holding on to jealousy toward a guy on the internet who drives a nicer car than you. You are hoarding victimhood like a crazy person hoarding old newspapers. The statute of limitations on your childhood excuses has officially expired. It is time to evict the emotional squatters of resentment, jealousy, and victimhood. I want you to march down into the basement of your mind, grab those squatters by the scruff of the neck, and throw their metaphorical bags onto the literal curb. Change the locks. They do not live here anymore. You have a choice. You can be the tragic, pathetic victim of your own biography, constantly crying over spilled milk, or you can be the cold-blooded author of your next chapter. It's not about avoiding the storm of bad luck. It's about the discipline to build a stronger ship. That's the key. Your trauma is not a permission slip to be a bum. Stop pointing fingers at the ghosts of your past. Start pointing your boots toward the future. Nobody respects a man who constantly demands pity, but everybody steps aside for a man who refuses to be broken. You evicted the victim. You stopped whining about how unfair the universe is, and you finally took absolute ownership of your circumstances. You told the world, "Try me." But let's be honest, your body is currently staging a protest. You claim you want to conquer the world, but by 2 p.m., you are yawning at your desk and claiming you just don't have the gas in the tank. You stopped feeling sorry for yourself. Now let's talk about the biological lie your body keeps telling your brain. Chapter 9. The Forgery of Fatigue. You're not tired, you're uninspired. Let's talk about the absolute grandest lie your body tells your brain every single day. It usually hits right around 2 p.m., Or maybe it waits until 6 p.m. when you finally drag yourself through your front door. You let out a heavy, dramatic sigh. You drop your keys on the counter and you announce to the empty room, "I am absolutely exhausted. I just have zero energy today." You use this completely fictional narrative to skip the gym, order greasy food, and collapse onto the sofa. Welcome to the myth of exhaustion. I want to present you with a glaring contradiction that proves you are a biological hypocrite. You claim you are far too physically drained to do 30 minutes of basic resistance training. You claim you are far too mentally fatigued to spend 45 minutes researching a side hustle. And yet, miraculously, you have the stamina of a marathon runner to sit in a chair, stare at a glowing screen, and play a first-person shooter video game for 6 consecutive hours. Your thumbs move at light speed, your heart rate is elevated. Your eyes are completely dialed in. You have the focus of a fighter pilot. Where did all that energy magically come from, sunshine? Did the video game inject espresso into your veins? No. You aren't physically drained, you are mentally bored out of your skull. Burn this phrase into the front of your brain. You're not drained, you're just allergic to effort. I want you to repeat that every time you tell yourself you are too tired to do the work. You're not drained, you're just allergic to effort. The moment the activity requires you to actually grow, struggle, or face potential failure, your brain instantly manufactures a fake feeling of fatigue just to keep you safe and comfortable on the couch. You have a choice. Every single day, you have a choice. You can believe the biological lie of fatigue, or you can call the bluff of your own laziness. It's not about finding hidden reserves of energy, it's about the discipline to start moving when the tank feels empty. That's the key. This brings us to a fundamental misunderstanding of human physiology. We need to talk about the fact that energy is generated, not found. You are currently operating under the completely false assumption that the human body is like a smartphone battery. You think that if you lay completely still for 3 hours, you will miraculously recharge up to 100%, and then you will finally feel like doing something productive. That is not how your machine is built. The human body is not a battery, it is a power plant. A power plant does not sit dormant waiting to be filled with electricity. A power plant burns fuel, moves turbines, creates friction, and generates power. Let's look at a real-world example. It is 3 p.m. on a Sunday. You have accomplished absolutely nothing all weekend. You are lying horizontally on your couch, watching a terrible reality television show. You feel sluggish. Your eyelids are heavy. You think, "I'll just take a quick, pathetic 20-minute nap, and then I'll definitely clean the garage." You wake up an hour later, and you feel even worse. You feel like you were hit by a cement truck made of molasses. You are groggy, irritated, and completely useless for the rest of the day. Now imagine the exact opposite scenario. You feel sluggish at 3 p.m. Instead of surrendering to the sofa, you force yourself to put on your running shoes. You step outside into the brisk air, and you take a fast, aggressive 15-minute walk around the neighborhood. You swing your arms. You breathe deeply. What happens when you walk back through your front door? Your blood is pumping. Your eyes are wide open. You feel completely awake, sharp, and ready to tear the garage apart. You don't rest to get energy. You move to create it. You don't need their permission to be energized. You don't need 8 shots of espresso or a glowing, toxic energy drink to feel alive. You just need to stop behaving like a houseplant. We are going to train your brain out of this laziness with a very specific behavioral instruction. We are implementing the one more mentality. Your brain is incredibly conservative. It is designed to save calories in case of a famine that is literally never going to happen. When you are lifting weights, running, or typing a difficult report, and your brain suddenly screams, "Stop! We are totally empty. We cannot take another step." I want you to realize something absolutely crucial. When your brain screams that the tank is empty, you are actually only at 40% capacity. You have 60% left in the tank. Your brain is just throwing a temper tantrum to protect you from discomfort. The one more mentality is how you break the forgery of fatigue. When you're doing push-ups and your brain screams that it cannot do another one, you do one more. When you are writing a proposal and your eyes are getting heavy, you write one more paragraph. When you are on the treadmill and your lungs are burning, you run for one more minute. You do this every single time your body lies to you about being exhausted. You prove to your nervous system over and over again that your feelings of fatigue are complete liars. You're not drained, you're just allergic to effort. When you push through that initial wall of fake exhaustion, you tap into a secondary reserve of completely undeniable raw energy. You realize that you are capable of operating at a level of intensity that 99% of the population will never experience. You have a choice. You can keep playing the role of the chronically fatigued victim, blaming your lack of progress on a mysterious lack of energy, or you can start the engine of the power plant. It's not about how tired you feel, it's about the discipline to strike the match and ignite the furnace. That's the key. You shattered the myth of exhaustion. You realized you aren't tired, you're just bored. You implemented the one more mentality and proved to your own brain that it is a massive liar. But raw energy without direction is just chaos. You have the power plant running, but now you need a blueprint. You fired up the engine. Now let's talk about the absolute steel framework you must build to ensure you never negotiate with your laziness again. Chapter 10. Logic over lullabies, building the mental fortress. Over the last hour, we have systematically dismantled every pathetic excuse, every biological lie, and every ridiculous psychological narrative you have been hiding behind for the last decade. You've stopped waiting for the motivation fairy. You've stopped feeding treats to your own sadness. You've stopped treating your life like a poorly directed science fiction movie. You've recognized that you are entirely responsible for the wreckage and the reconstruction of your own reality. But right now, you are standing in an empty field holding a sledgehammer. You have demolished the old weak versions of yourself, but if you do not immediately begin pouring a concrete foundation, those weeds of laziness and self-pity are going to grow right back in the very same spots. You need to become the architect of routine. Up until this moment in your life, you have operated under a completely disastrous philosophy. You have believed that your daily schedule should be dictated by how you happen to feel when you wake up in the morning. If you wake up and the birds are singing and your coffee tastes perfect, you might go to the gym. If you wake up, it's raining, and you have a mild headache, you hit the snooze button 4 times and call it a mental health day. You are letting a moody, unpredictable toddler drive the school bus of your life. You cannot trust your fleeting emotions. They are entirely unreliable. They are influenced by the weather, by how many carbohydrates you ate before bed, by a random social media post you saw, or by absolute nothingness. You must build a bulletproof routine that requires 0 emotional input. Burn this phrase into the deepest, most permanent part of your brain. Feelings are suggestions. The schedule is law. I'll say it again, and I want you to make it the absolute bedrock of your entire existence. Feelings are suggestions. The schedule is law. When your alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m., your brain is immediately going to start making suggestions. It's going to suggest that the mattress is incredibly comfortable. It's going to suggest that you worked really hard yesterday and you deserve a break. It's going to sing you a sweet, compelling lullaby about staying under the covers for just 5 more minutes. You do not listen to suggestions. You obey the law. The law says you are up at 5 a.m. You do not negotiate with your sleepy brain. You do not lay there and debate the pros and cons of cardiovascular exercise. You wake up on autopilot. The alarm sounds, your feet hit the floor, you drink a glass of water, and you start moving. You entirely bypass the negotiation phase. You have a choice. Every single day, you have a choice. You can negotiate with a terrorist, which is what your laziness is, or you can execute the mission with cold, military precision. It's not about how you feel about the task. It's about the absolute discipline of executing the schedule. That's the key. To implement this level of unshakable routine, we must introduce the Iron Protocol. I am constantly amazed by the completely ridiculous double standard men hold when it comes to their professional lives versus their personal lives. Let's look at a real-world example. Imagine you have a massive, life-changing meeting scheduled at 8 a.m. with the CEO of your company. It's a make-or-break presentation for your career. Do you wake up at 7:30 a.m., stretch, look out the window, and say, "You know what? I'm just feeling a little gloomy today. The vibes are off. I think I'll just stay home and watch a documentary about deep-sea fishing"? Of course you wouldn't. You would never blow off the CEO. You would drag yourself out of bed, put on a perfectly pressed suit, chug a coffee, and get to that office 15 minutes early, regardless of whether you felt like $1 million or you felt like you had been run over by a tractor. Why? Because the consequences of skipping that meeting are immediate and catastrophic. Yet when you schedule a 6 p.m. workout for yourself, a meeting with your own physical health, a meeting with your own longevity, a meeting with your own self-respect, you blow it off because you just aren't feeling it. You cancel on yourself instantly. You treat your own goals, your own empire, and your own future with less respect than you treat a middle manager in a corporate cubicle farm. You don't need their permission to be a professional. The Iron Protocol dictates that you treat your personal goals with the exact same life or death seriousness as a meeting with a CEO. You stop blowing off your own life. When you write it on the calendar, it is written in iron. It does not move. It does not bend. If you say you are going to read 10 pages of a book before bed, you read 10 pages. If you say you are going to meal prep on Sunday, you meal prep on Sunday. You keep the promises you make to yourself, because the moment you start breaking those promises, your self-esteem completely collapses. Feelings are suggestions. The schedule is law. When you operate under the Iron Protocol, your emotions become entirely irrelevant to your output. You become a machine of consistent, predictable excellence. This is the final phase of your transformation. This is what we call crowning the king. For your entire adult life, you have let chaos and emotion sit on the throne of your mind. They have made terrible decisions. They have squandered your time, wasted your money, ruined your focus, and kept you completely paralyzed in a state of perpetual almost. Today, we are dethroning them. You are taking logic and discipline, and you are placing them permanently on the throne of your mind. You are taking your chaotic, whiny, unpredictable feelings, and you are locking them in the basement where they belong. They can scream, they can cry, and they can suggest whatever they want from down there. They are no longer in charge of the kingdom. You are now the undisputed, cold-blooded master of your own destiny. You do not react, you execute. You do not hope, you plan. You do not wish, you work. You have a choice. You can slip back into the comfortable, pathetic coma of your previous existence, forever wondering why you never reached your potential, or you can pick up the crown. It's not about finding yourself, it's about the brutal discipline of creating yourself from scratch. That's the key. You built the mental fortress, you crowned the king. Now the blueprint is finished and the tools are in your hands. There is nothing left to discuss. There is only the work. All right, playtime is officially over. We've spent the last hour ripping the emotional band-aids off your psyche, and now you're staring at the bare, uncomfortable skin of reality. You now know that motivation is a fairy tale, your sadness is a terrible roommate, and your anxiety is just a poorly written sci-fi movie screening in your head. No more crying in the shower, no more waiting for the stars to align. The stars are giant balls of burning gas. They do not care about your Tuesday schedule. You are going to wake up tomorrow, look in the mirror, and fire the emotional clown car driving your life. I challenge you right here, right now. Pick the one hardest thing you've been avoiding because you just didn't feel like it, and absolutely obliterate it today. Not tomorrow, not Monday. Today, evict the emotional squatters. Reclaim the property of your mind. Now get off your backside and get to work.